is intelligence that scientists have been hiding something from you, not intentionally, but because it doesn't fit the narrative you've been taught. Here's the truth bomb. In over 200 years of modern science, not a single scientist has ever proven that God doesn't exist. Zero. Zilch. Nada. But here's what they don't tell you. Modern science realistically reveals something completely opposite. Something that would shock most people who think science and religion are enemies. I'm talking about no known science can explain the documentation. Phenomena witnessed by millions of people, including atheists, government officials, and skeptics. Stay and watch to the end of this podcast. In the next 15 minutes, I'm going to show you 6 pieces of evidence that scientists have hand-in-hand investigated. Real cases, real laboratories, and by the end of this video, you're going to see why the question isn't, does God exist? The real question is, why isn't anyone talking about this evidence? Let's dive in. Imagine this. You're a forensic pathologist. You've spent 20 years analyzing tissue. You've seen thousands of cases. And one day, the Catholic Church brings you a sample. They tell you it used to be bread. Just regular bread used in communion. You laugh it off. Probably some contamination, right? But then you look under the microscope, and your blood runs cold. This actually happened. Not once, not twice, but multiple times in recent history. During Mass, a consecrated host falls to the ground. The priest picks it up and places it in the water, as per Catholic tradition. 1 week later, the nun checking the requirements freezes. The host hasn't dissolved. Instead, there's a red stain that looks disturbingly like blood. Now, at this point, you might think, okay, some skepticism. Case closed. But the church doesn't close the case. They do something remarkable. They call in scientists, real scientists, including Dr. Maria Sobanik-Lotowska, a medical professor from the Medical University of Bialystok, Poland. Here's what she found, and I want you to really hear this. The tissue was human cardiac muscle, not just any heart tissue, but specifically the myocardium, the muscular wall of the heart. But wait, it gets stranger. The tissue showed signs of being from someone in extreme agony, someone experiencing intense suffering, and here's the kicker that makes this scientifically impossible, the tissue was alive. Living cells. In 2008, could be a hoax, but then it happened again. Legnica, Poland, 2013. Different church, different priest, different scientists, same result, human heart tissue, in agony, living cells, scientifically inexplicable. Now think about what Jesus said 2,000 years ago, this is my body. This is my blood. For 2,000 years, people thought it was symbolic, metaphorical. What if it was literal all along? But that's just the beginning. Because what I'm about to show you next was witnessed by 70,000 people at the same time. The miracle of the sun, Fatima. Impossible prediction. Imagine a 10-year-old child tells you, 3 months from now, on October 13th, God will perform a miracle. A miracle so big that 70,000 people will see it at the same time. You'd laugh. But what if it actually happened, exactly as predicted, with thousands of witnesses including newspaper reporters and atheists? Portugal, 1917. 3 shepherd children claim to be seeing visions of the Virgin Mary. The local government is furious. The church is skeptical. Newspapers are mocking them. But these children make a specific, testable prediction. On October 13, 1917, at noon, in a field called Kovoda, a miracle will occur. Word spreads. Thousands plan to attend. But here's what makes this interesting. Many people show up specifically to debunk it. To laugh. To mock. To prove it's all nonsense. Secular newspapers send their most skeptical reporters. The anti-religious government sends observers. October 13th arrives. It's pouring rain. The field is a muddy disaster. 70,000 soak it wet. People are standing there, many already laughing at the children. Noon comes. Nothing happens. Then, the rain stops. The clouds part. And what happens next was described by believers and atheists alike. The sun began to dance. It spun like a pinwheel. It changed colors, silver, yellow, red, blue. Then, and this is where it gets terrifying, the sun appears to plunge toward the earth. People screamed. They thought the world was ending. They fell to their knees. Here's the crucial part. This wasn't mass hysteria. People 40 kilometers away reported seeing it. That's 25 miles. The secular newspaper Osekulo, which had been mocking the children for months, published this the next day. Before the astonished eyes of the crowd, whose aspect was biblical as they stood bareheaded, eagerly searching the sky, the sun trembled, made sudden incredible movements outside all cosmic laws. The sun danced, according to the typical expression of the people. How do you explain 70,000 people seeing the same impossible thing? How do you explain it being predicted 3 months in advance? How do you explain soaking wet clothes and muddy ground becoming completely dry in seconds? But you know what's even more mind-blowing? What if I told you this happened again, but with over 1 million witnesses, including a country's president? Egypt. Modern mass sighting. Cairo, Egypt. A Muslim bus mechanic is walking home late at night when he sees something that makes him freeze in terror. On top of a Coptic Orthodox church, there's a woman dressed in light. She's glowing, hovering above the church dome. He thinks he's hallucinating. He rubs his eyes. She's still there. He screams, "The Virgin Mary." Within minutes, a crowd gathers. Within hours, thousands. Within days, hundreds of thousands. And here's what makes this different from Fatima. This wasn't a one-time event. This happened regularly for 3 years. From 1968 to 1971. Who saw it? Muslims, Christians, Jews, atheists, Egyptian President Gamal Abdel Nasser, who went there personally. Police officers, journalists, government officials. Over 1 million people witnessed this phenomenon. It was photographed. It was filmed. But it wasn't just an image. People reported the figure moving and blessing the crowds. Doves made of pure light appear and disappear. A fragrance fills the air. Miraculous healings occurring on the spot. The Egyptian government investigated it. They couldn't explain it. The Coptic Cour investigated it. They documented it. International media covered it. Time magazine reported on it. Now, I want skeptics to explain this to me. How do over 1 million people, including the president of a country, all hallucinate the same thing for 3 years? But let's get even more scientific. Because what I'm about to show you is written in every single cell of your body right now. Inside your body, right now, as you're watching this video, there are 37 trillion cells in your body. And inside skepticism, it is something that Bill Gates called, far more advanced than any software we've ever created. I'm talking about DNA. Now, I know what you're thinking. DNA. That's evolution. That's the proof there's no God. But hold on, let me show you something that scientists don't like to talk about. DNA isn't just a molecule. It's not just a chemical. It's information. It's a code. It's a language. Let me put this in perspective. Your DNA contains 3 billion letters of genetic code. If you printed it out, it would fill books stacked 61 meters high. It contains precise instructions for building proteins, cells, tissues, and organs. It tells your cells exactly what to do, when to do it, and how to do it. Here's the question that stumps materialist scientists. Where does information come from? No matter, not energy, information. In all of human experience, in every case we've ever observed, information comes from one source. Intelligence. Think about it. The code in your computer software, written by programmers. The words in a book, written by an author. The plans for a building not to be built. The recipe for a cake, designed by a chef. We have not once, observed information arising from purely natural processes without intelligence. So if you found a laptop in the forest, would you think, wow, random natural processes must have assembled this over millions of years? No, you'd immediately know. Someone designed this. Someone programmed this. But DNA is infinitely more complex than any computer program humans have ever written. Skeptics will say, natural selection explains it. But natural selection can only select from options that already exist. It doesn't create information. It doesn't write code. You still need to explain where the first genetic code came from. Where the first information came from. Francis Crick, the atheist who co-discovered DNA's structure, was so baffled by this that he suggested maybe aliens seeded life on Earth. Even atheists realize, this level of information requires intelligence. The question is, are you willing to consider that the intelligence might be God? Speaking of the supernatural, what I'm about to show you next deals with documented cases of the demonic. And trust me, it's going to challenge everything you think you know. Exorcism phenomena, horror movie reality. You've seen the horror movies. The possessed person, the levitation, the demonic voice, Hollywood, right, special effects, fiction. But what if I told you that priests, psychiatrists, and scientists have documented phenomena during the exorcisms that any known science cannot explain? Now, before you click away thinking this is superstitious nonsense, understand this. The Catholic Church is actually extremely skeptical of possession cases. They require full psychiatric evaluation, medical testing to rule out mental illness, multiple witnesses, documentation by trained professionals. The Vatican has an actual training course for exorcists. They work hand in hand with psychiatrists and doctors. So what do they document? Here are phenomena that occur repeatedly. Xenoglossia, speaking unknown languages. Possessed individuals speak fluent ancient languages they've never learned studied. Not just a few words. Full conversations in ancient Aramaic, Latin, and Greek. A 16-year-old girl with no education speaking perfect ancient Greek for 30 minutes straight, discussing theological concepts she'd never learned. Hidden knowledge. People revealing information they couldn't possibly know. Details about the priest's childhood that no one knew, since the room had never confessed. Events happening miles away at that exact moment. Superhuman strength. A 90-pound woman requires 5 grown men to restrain her. People break leather restraints like they're paper. Completely beyond normal human capability. Reactions to sacred objects. Here's what's fascinating. The possessed person reacts violently to blessed objects, even when they don't know the object is blessed. Try giving them 2 bottles of water. One blessed, one not. Same bottles, same temperature. They'll drink the regular water. The blessed water. They'll vomit, scream, and refuse to touch it. How do they show the difference? Levitation. Yes, it's been documented. Multiple witnesses. Now here's the logical conclusion that materialists hate. If demons exist, and can be documented through observable, repeatable phenomena, then the supernatural realm exists. And if the demonic is real, doesn't that strongly suggest that God is real too? The church doesn't publicize cases for good reason, they don't want attention seekers. But the documentation exists, the witnesses exist, the priests and psychiatrists involved are real people with real credentials. So the question is, why doesn't this evidence make mainstream conversation about God's existence? But let's move from the dark side of the supernatural to something beautiful. Because what I'm about to show you gives hope to millions. Lourd's medical miracles. Medical impossibility. Imagine you're a doctor. A patient comes in with terminal bone cancer. Stage 4. Months to live. You document it. X-rays, CT scans, biopsies. It's undeniable. The patient goes to Lourdes, France. Bathes in the spring water there. Returns a week later. You do another scan. The cancer is gone. Not in remission. Not reduced. Gone. As if it never existed. What do you put in your report? This is not hypothetical. This is what doctors at the Lourdes Medical Bureau deal with regularly. The Lourdes Medical Bureau was established in 1883. It's one of the most rigorous medical investigation bodies in the world. Here's what makes it unique. Composed of doctors of all faiths and no faith. Includes atheist and agnostic physicians. Follows strict scientific protocols. Only declares something a miracle after exhaustive investigation. For a healing to be declared miraculous, it must meet all of these criteria. Serious and incurable, the original illness must be clearly documented and medically serious. Instantaneous or extremely rapid, not gradual improvement, but sudden, dramatic healing. Complete, not partial relief, but total cure. Lasting. The cure must be permanent, not temporary. Inexplicable. No medical or scientific explanation can account for it. The statistics. Since 1858, over 7,000 healings have been reported. All are investigated by the Medical Bureau. After rigorous scientific analysis, 70 have been officially declared miraculous. Thousands more are considered medically inexplicable but await a final declaration. Let me give you some examples. Case 1. Serge Francois, 2002. Diagnosis. Multiple sclerosis with severe paralysis. Result. Walked away completely healed after visiting Lourdes. Confirmation. Multiple neurologists confirmed the healing. No medical explanation. Case 2. Daniela Castelli, 1989. Diagnosis. Severe hypertension and heart failure. Result. Instant, complete healing during visit to Lourdes. Confirmation. Cardiologists documented the before and after. Medically impossible. 3. Jean-Pierre Belly. Diagnosis. Multiple sclerosis, bedridden, paralyzed for years. A result. Stood up and walked during a prayer service. Confirmation. His doctor was an atheist. Even he confirmed it was medically inexplicable. The atheist doctors. Here's what's powerful. Some of the doctors on the Medical Bureau are atheists. They don't want these cases to be miracles. They look for every possible medical explanation. Skeptics, they conclude. We cannot explain this by any known medical or scientific means. The challenge. So here, X-rays challenge skeptics. A placebo is all. Placebo effect, or misdiagnosis. Why do atheist doctors confirm them? Why do X-rays and CT scans show the before and after? Why do terminal illnesses disappear instantly? A placebo doesn't work instantly. Misdiagnosis doesn't explain documented medical imaging. These healings suggest something profound. There is a power, a person, who can suspend the laws of nature. Someone who cares enough to heal suffering people. That sounds an awful lot like the God described in the Bible. Conclusion. Okay, let's recap what we've covered. Our Eucharistic miracles. Bread is literally becoming human heart tissue. Living cells. In agony. Confirmed by forensic pathologists. Fatima's miracle. 70,000 people are witnessing the impossible. Predicted 3 months in advance. Documented by hostile newspapers. Zaytown apparitions. Over 1 million witnesses, including a country's president. Photographed, filmed. For 3 years. DNA's information code. 3 billion letters of genetic instruction. Information that, according to everything we know, can only come from intelligence. Exorcism phenomena. Documented supernatural events that psychiatric science cannot explain. Speaking unknown languages. Superhuman strength. Hidden knowledge. Lourdes healings. 70 officially confirmed medical miracles. Verified by atheist doctors. Instant. Complete. Permanent. Inexplicable. The big picture. Now, could each of these skeptics be away individually? Maybe you could force a materialist explanation for one or two. But all of them. At what point does skepticism become willful blindness? The pattern. Here's what I see. Physical evidence that can be tested in laboratories. Mass witness events that can be documented. Medical cases that can be verified by multiple doctors. Phenomena that repeat across time, geography, and culture. This isn't faith based on feelings. This is faith based on evidence. The real question. The question was never, is there evidence for God? The evidence is there. It's always been there. The real question is, why isn't anyone talking about it? And maybe the even deeper question is, am I willing to examine this evidence honestly? I know some of you are thinking, If this evidence is so good, why don't all scientists believe it? Fair question. Here's my answer. Science is done by scientists. And scientists are human beings with biases, careers, and reputations to protect. If you're a biology professor who's built your entire career on strict materialism, admitting that Eucharistic miracles might be real could cost you nothing. Your job, your reputation, your standing in the academic community. So it's easier not to look, to dismiss, to ignore, but you don't have that pressure. You can look at this evidence with fresh eyes. You can ask the hard questions. What if the materialists are wrong? What if there really is something beyond the physical? What if God is actually there, leaving evidence for those willing to see it? Here's what I want you to do. Don't take my word for it. Don't take anyone's word for it. Research these cases yourself. The Sokolka miracle, the Fatima witnesses, the Zaytown photographs, the Lord's medical files. The documentation is public, the evidence is accessible, and then ask yourself honestly, what would it take for me to believe? Because if your answer is, nothing, no amount of evidence would ever convince me, then the problem isn't the evidence. If this video challenged you, made you think, or opened your eyes to evidence you'd never heard before, hit that like button, share it with someone who needs to see this. Subscribe if you want more content exploring the intersection of faith and reason. And leave a comment. I want to hear your thoughts. What piece of evidence was most compelling to you? What questions do you still have? Are you willing to investigate further? Science was never meant to be the enemy of faith. Real science seeks truth wherever it leads. And maybe, just maybe, it's been leading toward God all along. Thanks for watching. God bless you. And remember, keep seeking truth, wherever it may lead you. I also invite you to watch other presentations on this channel.